This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. Thanks for checking out our flower series. In this video, we'll be doing closed protea buttercream flowers. It's broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. We are going to make two colors, and we're going to use some white or plain buttercream in addition to the two colors we're going to make today, and I'm using American style buttercream. We're going to use the following liquid gel colors: lemon yellow, royal blue, violet, and finally some coal black. First thing we're going to do is make just a tiny bit of green, and we want it to be kind of a light green, so not too intense. So I'm just using some tiny little specks of color, little bit of blue, tiny bit of yellow, and I'm just going to give it a little hint of that black. You can see just those little tiny specks of color, they really go a long way. You don't really need to use much. I'm going to get this worked around, see how it looks once I get all that color distributed, because I've still got some streaks of blue and yellow. And I think I want to go a little more yellow for what I'm trying to do, just for a nice, pleasant color combo. So I'm just going to go and really quickly, just a tiny touch more of that yellow, just a little bit of that black. We'll see how that goes, because right now we were a little heavier on our blue, so I want to just kind of bump up that yellow a little bit. And it was feeling a little kind of, I guess, minty. I want to take it maybe more towards that kind of citrusy vibe where it's a little heavier on the yellow, and just give it a tiny touch of that black so I have that little thread kind of going through the different colors I'm going to make, because I'm going to add a little bit of that to the nice soft kind of heathery purple color we're going to make. And this is beautiful. It's a nice soft shade of green. It's a little heavier balance-wise on the yellow than the blue, and it's going to look great next to our purple. For our second color, we're going to make a nice kind of heathery purple. So I'm going to start with some of that violet. Nice little specks in there. Get that going. A little bit of black. And just a tiny bit of my blue. And we'll see where this lands us. And if we need to, we'll add some more color to it. But this might be a nice, beautiful shade for us. If I've gone too heavy on my black or my blue, I can always add some more purple. But this might be kind of right where I want it to be. I think maybe just a tiny touch more purple. Will do it. Because I don't want it to end up looking gray. I want it to really be purple. I just want it to have a tiny touch of that kind of black to it, to give it that nice, beautiful heather purple kind of vibe. There we go. I just need to shift that just a tiny bit. And that's going to be gorgeous. So still a nice soft color. Just has a little bit of that black to give it that nice heather vibe, and it kind of reminds me of a nice soft lavender shade too. So that's a wonderful purple for us to use for our little protea flowers today. We're going to use 3 bags today. They're all 12-inch disposable. You can use whatever kind you like. We've got our one with our white fitted with a coupler because we're going to be changing tips. The first tip we'll be using with our white is the number 12. We'll also use a number 3. We'll be using a number 3 with our green as well. And finally, with our purple, we'll be using a number 104. Let's review the techniques we're going to use for our closed protea flower. The first thing we're going to do is pipe a support, because it's going to need a fairly large and tall base to sit on. We're going to do a combination of 2 things. we're going to pipe a dot. So be up off the surface, nice dot. You can finish it off if you want to, or you can just keep piping. Think about making a rosette rose where we're then going to pipe a ring around it. So you just want to go all the way around that dot. We're then going to do the same thing on top of itself. So we're going to build up some height by just using a few simple techniques. So dot again, ring around again, and sometimes I'll do a little swirl on top just to finish things off. But basically, we're just building up some height there using techniques we already know. We're also going to be piping some spikes, and these are things we've done a lot, especially for centers of flowers where we've got some nice little stamens and stuff going on. And with these protea flowers, we want to pull some of them towards the center, so think flat along the surface. So we're going to pull, squeeze a nice dot, and then pull right along the surface. If you go too fast, they'll be too short, so just kind of change your rate if you need to, and just pull it so it's a nice little tapered wisp there along the surface of the top of our buds. We'll also be doing some classic upright ones as well. So same thing where you just want to build up a little dot of frosting and pull up while squeezing as you pull away. And that's going to give us ones that stand up. For our petals, we're just utilizing two really basic, very simple techniques. We're going to do some pull down tabs. For these, when we're working on our nail, we're going to have the back of the bag at 430, so towards the right shoulder because I'm right-handed. If you're lefty, just do the opposite side. And we're going to have it in that kind of lay flat position. And essentially, all we're going to do is pipe a nice little tab. So we're going to start over the edge of our center and pipe and pull down so that it meets kind of our little cone and our support. And this will make much more sense when we're doing it on the actual flower, and it's really hard to demo here on the tray. But just think of piping these kind of straight lines. They can even be at a little bit of an angle if you want to give your flower a little bit of style, and they're going to connect to our support at the bottom. So they're going to kind of be a little free and a little loose on top, and they're going to use some of the other elements of our flower for support to get them started. Our other style of petals are going to be spikes as well. The only thing that's different about them is that we're using this 104 tip. So we're just going to hold our bag upright, squeeze, let that connect, and pull up while we're still squeezing. And we can get them taller and to stand up because they'll be next to the rest of our flower, and that'll be acting as a support to these. And that'll allow us to make some really kind of like high drama petals that really stand up for us and give us those nice kind of flat shapes that the petals of those protea flowers have. We've gone over our techniques. Now let's review how we combo those together to actually make a protea blossom, because otherwise they seem a little disjointed and don't really make sense. So the first thing we're going to do is start with that bag of white with our number 12 tip. We're going to pipe a dot, do a ring around it, and then we're going to repeat that process right on top of itself. And that's going to help give us the height that we need. If things are a little unfinished, a little uneven in terms of the surface, a lot of times I'll just swirl in on top when I'm finishing it, just to kind of enclose everything and give myself a nice surface to work on that has a little bit of a rounded shape. I'm going to then change the tip on that white to my number 3, and I'm going to do some of those kind of flattened spikes, so the ones that go flat across the surface. So we're going to start kind of at the outside edge of the top of our mound and pull towards the center. So every time we do it, we're pulling towards the center. And it's fine if it leaves a little thready trail towards the middle and kind of builds up a little bit. So I want to go around once with my white, really close together, overlapping. They can almost be a little on top of each other. That's fine. Just think about making a really tight mass of those spikes. And yes, it can be a little messy as well, where the points all kind of meet to the center and kind of have a natural kind of like maybe just a little bit of a peak in there in the middle. So think slightly pyramid-like. And then I'm going to change to my green. So I'm going to switch bags and I'm going to go around again towards the center and maybe just go a little shorter. And this is going to kind of build up some body, a little more of the height and a little bulk for myself. And that's going to be fantastic. Once I do a second little row of green, so that's going to help give me a color fade. So it'll be like white and then green. I'm going to do some green ones upright right by the edges. So think go around at least once or twice and kind of make a little row on the outside edge where those first kind of layers of spikes end, standing straight up. And this is one how these actual flowers look, but two, it's also going to give us the support we need for our next round of petals. So once we get those little upright ones on the edges, we're going to switch to our bag of 104 and we're going to start on those pull down tabs. And so our tabs are actually going to start up top, kind of free out in the open on top of those spikes. So we're going to start them and we're going to pull down. And I'll probably only pull down 1/3 of the way down the side till they just meet the ends. And you can pull straight down, you can pull at a little bit of an angle. That's a little more of a style choice and up to you. But I'll go around and I'll do one whole round. They don't have to be tightly packed together. I think you can kind of leave them a little bit loose, a little bit open. And then I'll do a second layer. So go kind of offset. You can still leave some gaps and pull just a little bit longer. So we want to kind of build up these kind of layers of these petals. Your second layer can also start a little further back as well. And that gives us kind of the idea of these layers of petals, kind of successive layers of petals that are going down the sides. And it'll give it that kind of scaly look that we're looking for. Once we get that second layer of those pull down petals on, we're going to switch to doing the upright spikes. So for these, we want to start at the base, kind of nested right by the bottom of that mound that we made, and we want to pull up. So think you're going for drama, you're going for effect. You want to fill any gaps you have in, right? Any spaces where there's still white showing through those pull down tabs. We want to start at the bottom and we want to pull all the way up the side, and we're looking to go either to the top or even past it a little bit. And since we have this kind of massive frosting going on, it should support those spikes so they really stand straight upright. And don't be afraid to touch the work you've already done. Sometimes people get a little too afraid that you might mess something up, pull something off. It's really, you have to be very rough with it to do that. So don't be afraid to make contact and pull right straight up the side and really get in there, and that'll help give it support and also help give it more drama because you'll be able to make those spikes taller. And in the end, we should have a nice kind of almost tapered look to these, and they should have some height to them, and they should look like those closed protea flowers that are just about to burst open and give you that full, beautiful glory. And these are a nice one to pair with the king protea that we've already done. We're going to get started piping. I've got my 3-inch flower nail because this one's just a little bit too big for my 2. It's not going to take up the whole area on this, but it's just a little bulky for my smaller one. So I've got my 3-inch one out. I've got it fitted with a piece of paper that I have attached with buttercream, and I'm going to get started with my bag of white and my number 12 tip. So we want to be up off the surface because we're going to pipe a nice dot for ourselves. So just get in there, pipe that dot. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this is a good spot to work on them because no one will see them. And then I'm just going to pipe a ring around that dot. Then a little higher up because we're going to do a dot on top of our dot. And another ring. If you need to, hold the bag at a slight angle for this one just to help get it in underneath there. And you can see I've got a little height on my dot still. And I want to just kind of cover that up, go around again, swirl into the center, and this should give us a nice gradient. So you can see it almost looks like a beehive, and this is a great structure for our tall, closed protea flowers. Now we're going to start in with our spikes for our centers, and we're going to go flat against the surface for the first round. And I just want to start where my little mound here kind of starts to curve towards the middle, right? So right where that slope kind of starts to change. And that's going to give me a great spot to attach those spikes and pull towards the center. And you can see it kind of just has a little bit of a peak there at the end. You just want to go all the way to the middle. It's fine if there's a little bit of buildup. Just start in whatever position is comfortable. And I feel like it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe it's sort of like the roof on maybe a hut or something like that, where all those little things come together to peak or point in the middle. And if your first layer covered well, that's great. If it didn't, just go in, fill in any spots where you need to, where there's maybe a gap, you lost some definition or anything like that. And you can see we're trying to create that kind of little peak there in the center where we've got all those little spikes coming together and creating some motion and drama there in the middle. Now we're going to go around similar fashion with our number 3 and our green, and we're going to go a little shorter. So we want to pull towards the center, but we don't want them to be kind of quite as long as the ones we did in white. We want them to allow that white to show through in the middle. And this gives us a beautiful kind of layered effect for those colors. Now with our green, we're going to do some upright spikes. So right here on the edge of where we've been working, we're going to pull straight up. And these are going to be the supports for our little pull down petals. So we want to make sure we get in there and do a nice solid layer around. So just right next to each other. And if you feel like one layer isn't enough, you can always go in and do a second. And don't be afraid to really kind of start in that white. If you dig into it a little bit and pick some up, that's just fine. A little blending of colors is never a bad thing. So once I do my first layer, I'm just going to go in and do a second. So really just pull off that side, go around twice, make it nice and thick. It might push some of the first row over towards the center, and that's great. That's going to give us a nice natural look. So you can see now I've got a nice little wall built up around the edges, that double layer of spikes, and that's going to be perfect to help support those pull down tabs, but also have some of this beautiful work showing through. Now we're going to do some little pull down tab style petals, and these were a little hard to demonstrate on the tray, so I'm just going to go over it lightly here. So we're going to start so that when we squeeze this 104, you'll notice my bag is kind of in that flat position. The back is towards my right shoulder. I've got the skinny end of the tip pointing towards me, but honestly for this, it doesn't really matter which one is pointing towards you, which one is away. One side is going to have a fatter edge to it and the other side is going to have a skinny, so you just have to decide which way you want that facing. And we're going to start up on this ridge of spikes, and this frosting will kind of attach to that, curl a little bit, and then we're going to pull down the side and attach it to our mound below. So you just want to pull either straight down, or as you're pulling, give your nail just a little bit of a rotation. And you can go straight to start with if that is a little bit scary. So you can see those petals are just going to kind of attach right there, and those spikes are going to help support them. And if I go a little faster, it should kind of roll over for me. Sometimes these kinds of petals are a little hard to do slower, so just kind of go for it. If you mess it up, just start over or just peel it off and then redo your spikes in that area. So I just want to leave a little bit of distance between petals. You can see it rolls over and pull down. So the quicker I go, the easier they actually are. They curl over for me just the way I want them to. And this is probably going to take about 6 of these to go around. For our second layer of pull downs, I'm going to go in between my first row of petals, start just a little bit further down so that we're just a little further back, and we'll leave some of these tops showing through. And that way we'll pull down in between them. So you can see we'll help cover up some of that mound that we made that's still showing through. So start right there and pull down. And you can see now it's closing in that gap. And I've got a nice little look here where some of these are longer and some of them are shorter. So I'm just going to go in between each set of petals and pull another one. And this is helping to enclose that mound and cover up that white at the bottom. And give us a really beautiful look to these flowers. For our final petals, we're going to pull some of those upright spikes. I'm going to start right here at the base and just pull right up alongside my petals that I've already done. So basically anywhere there's a little gap and I need to fill in a little bit, I'm just going to go along and do one of these. And if it gets a little out of control and out of the way and starts to flop over on you, you can just gently correct it with that tip as well. So just anywhere I've got a little space or a little gap, just think about sliding alongside the work you've already done, just really gently and pulling up. When you've gone around once, if you need to, you can always go in anywhere you're missing a little bit and pull in another one just to give it a nice little even look. But as you can see, this gives us a beautiful closed style protea that's going to look fantastic next to some large open king protea flowers. That's all for this lesson on our closed protea flowers. If you enjoyed this one, try checking out our video on king protea. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecoratingschool.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.